kind of talk about what you guys are doing right now and with Folia Coffee, and just kind of get a background on what your thoughts are on your mission. And I know sustainability is a huge thing for you guys, and I just want to hear more about kind of your values of your company and how you want to move forward with it.
Absolutely. I can start.
Yeah.
So I know me and Nathan, we met in high school actually, but we both have always bonded over this, our a variety of things, but a big thing is that we both went to college and studied entrepreneurship. And then Nathan also studied sustainability. And so we both had this air of really caring about business and thinking that business was a great tool to push out the changes that we wanted to see in the world. You know, it would be a great vehicle for social missions like sustainability. So Nathan, getting more involved in the coffee industry at post-college, he had this idea of a coffee concept that could bring more sustainable practices in coffee. And I like to say that when he first told me about it, he showed me the business plan. I thought it was a great concept, and then I had a lot of feedback and I ripped it up.
Of course.
And told him he needed a partner and that I wanted to be that partner.
Hey, that's how every great business starts, right?
Yeah. I had the ideas. I had like, oh, maybe this works, maybe this works. And Paige was like, no, Nathan, focus on the good parts. So some things went out the window, but eventually we got to Folia. And it's still an evolving concept, but I think we are firm in our mission and values and applying them to an industry that's very established. Is figuring out how do we take that mission and values of creating these environments that work for people and for nature are our two main focus. We want to make sure people are well taken care of, as well as taking care of nature, environments, social environments, all at the same time, and making sure that everything has the ability to thrive, that we're not getting in the way of people living their best life, and hopefully enabling all of that. So when we kind of came to the idea, we thought coffee, and with my experience and with my ideas, was a good place to start, because the human side of coffee is all about how do we connect and create more resilient communities and share ideas. Like a lot of the big revolutions and big movements have come from coffee shops and artists and people who are getting together and sharing ideas. So kind of that as a catalyst to create this change. And we don't want to limit ourselves to just coffee. Coffee is we think is a good starting point, but we really define ourselves as an environmental company or a sustainability company. And that's how we want to be kind of perceived and viewed first and foremost. And coffee just happens to be something we sell at this moment. But we want to be able to branch out into different services, different product lines, different, you name it, whatever the opportunity is. And if it fits within our mission, we want to have the capacity to pursue it. We see a lot of coffee companies out there who are really focusing and just betting betting the house.
Yep.
Betting the house on coffee. And
just
that's
coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that can be a bit limiting, but it's also really interesting to see when you have that intense focus, the innovation you're able to have around that. You're seeing all these like big coffee names in the craft third wave industry of, Onyx Coffee Lab out of, is that Missouri?
I think it's Arkansas. Actually.
Arkansas, that's right. Yep. Arkansas, or the big names like Intelligentsia, StemTown, and stuff like that. What they've been able to make, because there is such a passion around coffee. We want to kind of jump on that bandwagon and kind of ride the coattails of that coffee passion, because people get so fired up about it. And how do we infuse our message into that product and into that product line? So
we find that a lot of coffee companies, or a lot of coffee companies in general, think of sustainability as an afterthought.
Yeah.
Where it's, there's a lot of buzzwords that are thrown around, and just in ways to make them seem more green. But we really want to build more transparency in the space, to start creating those more strict guidelines of this is what we mean by sustainability, and and have that be more of the primary cause of why we're here, is to start questioning how things have been done, and being transparent about, our shortcomings and where the progress that we're still trying to make over time.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's kind of what led me to find you guys, was the sustainability aspect of what you guys are doing. And that's just something that, like, I'm passionate about as well. And I thought I could ask you too, like, as a consumer like myself, like, when I go to a grocery store, is there like a way to know, like, if I'm making the right decision when I purchase coffee right now, to like know if it's sustainable? Or I know that there's like the fair trade and like all that, like, yes, they're giving higher wages to farmers, but like, is there a way for a consumer to kind of pick and choose, based on knowledge of the packaging or anything like that?
Surface level stuff, it's really hard because there's just so much around that. What does everything really mean? I was just talking about one big thing in terms of like fair wage or fair trade, like you get the certification, but the ability to prove what farmers and seasonal harvesters are getting on a wage level is not entirely clear. We could pay a certain amount for the beans themselves, but that, transparency ends at generally the co-op or the exporter level. We're paying the exporter a certain amount of money, but how much money is getting from that level down to the individual farmers, individual workers, individuals that are working on the farm. One of our partners through Tiny Footprint in Ethiopia, Tesfaye at Suke Kuto Farm, Alan just went in December and met with him and had a conversation about
one of the owners of Tiny Footprint.
One of the owners at Tiny. How can we as a roaster make sure that we are funding good projects with them as a proprietor of that large organization where they have, hundreds of workers and hundreds of farmers that are contributing to that mill. And now we're really working on enabling reforestation and building schools and building public services for the communities that are contributing to that mill. So that transparency is something we want to bring into our organization, and that will include how do we work with our suppliers from local food products and craft products and stuff like that, and how each of those products and ingredients contribute to the final product, and how do we do that in a responsible way. So part of it is in our, how do we produce this coffee sustainably? Are we serving in compostable bags or compostable cups? Things that we directly touch, and also how do we, where do we put our money that talks for us, that we are investing in sustainable farmers and organic, and those things help us. So seeing that organic certification, seeing that fair trade symbol can be a bellwether for better sourced coffee, but it never confirms. So organic can be limited in that smaller farmers that are producing really good coffee, are putting a lot of care, are growing organically. They just can't afford that USDA certification because of all the money that goes into it. You need 3 years of organic farming in order to prove that you're organic. So there's a lot of barriers along the way for these smaller players in the industry. So
to circle back to your question on the consumer level, I think that's one of the big problems that we see, is that there is that lack of transparency and sustainability markers within coffee. We see that fair trade and organic is the most like certifications you can get for the coffee. But in terms of those other markers of how much waste you're using, how much in terms of water, energy, and then packaging. Packaging is so limited in coffee as well, in terms of doing it in a sustainable way to keep it fresh. So I know right now Folia is very much focused on the service aspect
Okay.
of how can we serve coffee going forward in a more sustainable way. But we're hoping that that could be something that we can keep focusing on more down the road.
Yeah.
Is how can we keep going up the pipeline and bringing more transparency into how coffee is processed and produced.
Yeah, that sounds great. And that's kind of what I was assuming too, is just with the coffee packaging, like you said, just to keep it fresh, you are somewhat limited on your options. But I did see Tiny Footprint coming out with compostable bags, which is awesome. So
we just launched that a couple days ago, so that's going to be a huge step forward. But you know, it's a small part of the big picture. Some people they tend to focus on the most attractive, trendy things, and right now it's like compostability, zero waste, all these kind of movements that are really bringing a lot of ideas to the plastic-free movement. But there's also sourcing and organic and chemical use, and coffee isn't a local product. It comes from around the equator, and us up in Minnesota, we're very lucky in order to be able to have the infrastructure that gets that product from Colombia, Peru, Mexico, up to northern U.S. And it's there's a lot of impact around that in terms of global shipping and waste and pollution and stuff of that nature. So
there's a lot.
It's never going to be perfect. So that's what we would say.
Yeah.
I guess I would say about the retail side is like, you can always be paying more. You can research the company and see what their values are, how they are living those values. I know a lot of companies will have sustainability pages on their website, so you can read more of the fine print. It's really hard to like look at a bag and say, is this coffee sustainable? And what do you mean by sustainability? There are so many different aspects to it. So I would say do your research. I don't think there's a clear cut way to say, this one's better than that one. Yet.
Yeah.
We hope to influence that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm glad you two are up to the task, and I trust that you'll get us there. So
we love your confidence in us. We don't always feel that all the time, so it's nice to hear it externally. It's like, how are we going to do this? It seems impossible, but
no, just keep pushing through. Yeah,
and we're driven to find a way to do it better.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's not to say anything against any other roasters or purveyors of coffee. There are a lot of people doing a lot of good work, and we really appreciate and support all that. But we want to go one step above that and one step beyond. And we're still very early on, and we don't know how that's going to look immediately right now. But I rant a lot.
Nathan, have you always been, or I guess both of you, like passionate about coffee, or like what brought you to coffee? Just one day you're drinking some coffee and
we have different histories with it. For me personally, I like to say coffee was my first rebellion as a kid.
I like that.
The quick story is that when I was probably around 10, my coffee was always the thing I was told I couldn't have because, as kids aren't supposed to drink coffee. But I was at a party with my parents one time, and an adult asked me if I wanted a cup of coffee, and I felt so important and so adult, and I remember saying yes, and it was a cup of black coffee, and I thought it was the grossest thing I'd ever tasted.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Right?
The first sip, you're like, what is this?
And I made sure I was like, it was the principle of the thing. I made sure I drank every last drop of that cup of black coffee, and I drank black coffee ever since.
That's awesome. That's a great story.
Well, so it was just that mini rebellion started my love of coffee, and over time it really, I just found a love in brewing it and learning more about the different roasts that I enjoyed. And one of my first jobs was at Caribou Coffee, so a chain, but
nice.
That was,
you got the exposure of coffee service and serving people coffee.
Right.
Which is huge.
It's huge. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that was always a dream of mine. Actually, why I went to business school is I said, I had a dream in high school. I was like, oh, I'd love to open up a coffee shop. That was, so that was my dream of what drew me into business. And then later on, Nathan's just knowledge of sustainability,
Mm-hmm.
and interest in sustainability is what led you to Tiny Footprint,
Mhm.
right?
Well, yeah, my story in coffee is I didn't drink it like ever. Maybe a couple times in college, me and my
Mm-hmm.
friends would go out study at a coffee shop, and I'd get like a latte or cappuccino. I didn't think it was super special or anything. So it was like maybe a treat, but would never go to Starbucks, Caribou sometimes. But if I ever went to Caribou, I got like a hot chocolate. So I never really
Don't
drank.
tell
I never really drank coffee until I graduated, and I was working for myself doing construction and renovation work. Um, and I was really bored one day, and then I just started. I don't know what caused it, but I started doing some research of coffee online. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, this is interesting. It's like a global supply chain, super complex. There's a lot of issues of sustainability and business in there. And then all of a sudden online, I pull up Roastery 7, Tiny Footprint Coffee. We do coffee classes. I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. I'm bored. I'm underemployed. I
Yeah.
could, have some time and go check it out. And then I show up to class, and before the class even starts, they offer me a job. And I'm like,
That's
I'm
awesome.
underemployed. I'm kind of bored. Sure, I'll come drink coffee to get paid to drink coffee. So I started out there part time doing just coffee cuppings, tastings, and kind of analyzing coffee with one of the owners. And then I brought on part time to do marketing and some sales and some account management. And then all of a sudden, it divulged into a full time job that I was, running our farmers market and running our cupping program and doing equipment maintenance and you name it in terms of what a coffee roaster does, I do it. And save the coffee roasting. I haven't roasted coffee yet. I do our sample roasting, but past that, I don't produce the coffee.
It's wild because it's hard to believe he just started learning about this a few years ago, because Nathan's like now the coffee expert of our team.
I was gonna say only 2 years. Yeah, that's crazy. But
Right?
yeah.
Because it's like he's so invested in it, and he's so good about knowing all the like nitty gritty details of how things are processed and produced. And I'm over here being like, I just really enjoy a cup of coffee.
Yeah, I'd probably say I'm a similar way to that, but
And then I know on my side, I really care about the service aspect. So that's
yeah.
another thing is in my time just working in hospitality. That's been a big thing that we really want to bring to Folia is
we as an organization create good service through taking care of employees and creating an environment that our employees and our customers can thrive in. I think how do we do that is kind of our job is moving forward is figuring
Yeah.
that small little thing out. How do we treat everybody great?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody's really figured it out yet, but we're intending to solve the problem. It's a big goal, but we
that's
have
awesome.
dreams.
Do you think, you were talking about cupping now, just curious, do you think being able to taste the quality of like the bean itself can be learned over time, or is it like,
Oh yeah,
was it something that, okay, I was just wondering if it came
100%.
natural to you or?
No,
Okay.
it's a lot of experience. It's just
Okay.
day after day, tasting coffees, tasting them side by side is huge. Just understanding what makes coffee different. You could have two coffees from the same country, same region, even same farm, but they're processed differently or they're harvested a month apart, and we'll taste them side by side and be like, okay, we know these are similar coffees, but let's start picking out those nitty gritty details.
Mm-hmm.
Having the language behind that's really what you're developing is the vocabulary around your palate. That the first time I tried coffee, we had like, I think it was Guatemalas were the first table I cupped, and I slurped one and I was like, there is something in there that I know what it is. I just cannot find the word. The part of my brain that comes up with the vocabulary and the part that recognizes tastes are two different parts of the brain. It's creating those pathways and building those pathways in between them is what makes you a good taster. And then once you get really good, you're starting to pull out, this tastes like gummy bears and s'mores cereal or whatever. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's when you get really, really good, you're starting to find those nuances of like, these chemicals remind me of these flavors, and it's just really practice that gets you there. And when I started out to where I am now is just leagues apart.
And I try to keep him grounded so he doesn't totally become into pretentious coffee snob.
It's too late. I'm already there.
There's no problems with that. So, yeah, just kind of circling back around to Folia again. I know you guys said you just are starting up. I know you do sell coffee on your site right now. Do you kind of know when you're starting to launch some of those services you're talking about? Is it coming this year, or is it more of a long-term process? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well,
Well,
I can say that we did not foresee this pandemic as most people.
Yeah, who did?
Exactly.
We started planning late last year, and we set our goals for the next year. Okay, this is our monthly deliverables. This is how it's going to look at the end of 2020. And then 2020 came and really threw us through a loop. So it was a lot of repositioning, reconsidering, okay, now that things are different, how do we adjust and adapt to those? That was a big part of our business school education, was just being flexible, being agile, and lean startup. How do we not invest too heavily in one specific thing?
Yeah.
So we weren't anticipating launching the online coffee beans. That was something that came up just in terms of with the stay-at-home orders, was something to be able to get our name out there and start getting feedback from people, is to be able to get those beans in people's hands.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep, start engaging with people. Like doing this.
Yeah.
But the original dream that we still hope to launch by the end of 2020 is having a coffee cart that we can have at events, and so that we can start practicing that service model that really is our bread and butter, that we really care about at the moment, and then hope to keep scaling that so that we can have an actual shop sometime.
Awesome. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
Next year.
Yeah. So this is our focus. It's where our strengths lie. Productization, branding. We work with a graphic designer to create our branding that we love. So we want to get that out there. But I think our skills and our services are going to be what really defines us and differentiates us. We're not a roaster. I work for a roaster, and we're sourcing our coffee from Tiny. So really allowing them to shine in that regard and select coffees that are good and allow us to source those coffees from them. So they've been a huge help in doing that. But again, our focus moving forward is going to be, coffee cart, restaurant, cafes, stuff of that nature is going to be our focus moving forward. Maybe we'll get into roasting someday down the road, but it's definitely not in our near future.
Awesome. Yeah. No, I love your image, and like your website just looks so clean. And I was going to ask where you got that done, and nice. I was going to say that.
Well,
Yeah.
There's a team effort, but your eyes are more refined.
We had a designer do the logo, but that website, that's not my wheelhouse at all. So that took a lot of brain.
No, it looks really, really nice.
Yeah. It's definitely our strength.
So thank you. That means a lot. That feedback means a lot.
You guys plan to go to like farmers markets and all that too? Is that on your list of places to hit up?
Yeah, we've done a holiday market in the past and kind of gotten our feet wet with that. But moving forward, we think it's going to be more public markets. Private events, I think, are going to be big. Corporate partnerships. There are quite a few coffee cart models out there across the U.S. and even here in Minnesota. There's some really cool companies that are doing really well. And I think we could carve out a niche in our space as well, really focusing on that sustainability aspect. And as more larger names and bigger companies, people who want to, we hired a sustainable coffee company, and they want to be proud of that. We want to be able to partner with them and really do them well by that metric, and help them make a step. It's going to be, how do we affect people outside of ourselves, and go to an event that wasn't using compostable serveware before, but now we're bringing compostable cups and helping them source whatever. So that might be a part of the thing. We don't know yet, but it's we want to be able to put our name out there and
a work in progress.
Have that connotation with sustainability.
No, that's great, and I think that's a great goal to have. And everyone wants to, right now bring in a sustainable company, and I think just having you guys there would be an awesome partnership. So, I just have a few more questions here and more related to, I wanted to get your thoughts on home brewing and like what you
Ooh.
guys do at your house, and like what tools and tricks you guys have when you wake up in the morning. And do you normally do drip coffee, or do you take the time and do pour over, AeroPress, or any of that? Like, what's your go-to, I guess?
Me personally, and Nathan's going to have a much more official, like, coffee professional view of this. But me, as just your everyday consumer,
Yeah.
I really enjoy the French press.
Okay.
So I really just enjoy that. There's something about that ability to just like manually grind the beans and put it in there and I don't know, push the stopper down or the plunger down. That makes me feel like very a part of the process. And
It's very aesthetically pleasing as well, I think.
Exactly.
Like it just looks nice.
Which matters. People don't want to
Yeah.
admit that kind of, but the seeing the Chemex on the shelf is a part of that experience, that our taste perceptions are based on what we see around us and how we feel. And if, you know, the ritual of making coffee definitely sets ourselves in the right mindset to consume and taste and all this kind of stuff. So you see that in wine, coffee, all tasting is based in our environment.
Yeah, 100% agree. It's kind of just in with coffee shops as well, like depending on the feel and look of your coffee shop, you can, depends on how people perceive your coffee as well. So. And
really makes or breaks an experience, especially for me. I know a lot of the coffee roasters around town, and I'll taste their coffee. And of course, brewing is going to be different everywhere, but how I feel, how comfortable I am, how friendly the baristas are, it all affects the overall experience and affects the perception of that coffee and that product. All right, so first thing you're going to want to do is you want to get a really nice espresso machine. I would recommend a La Marzocco, a Slayer, a Mavem, something like top of the line, really expensive, almost too expensive.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Like the $5,000 ones, or what?
Yeah, I think a minimum of 4,000, but really, I think you're safe going up to 12,000. Really,
you better be getting commission on
the midline. Yeah, I'm willing to sell you these machines. Come straight to me. I know where to get them. No, I've been very fortunate of working at a coffee company for the past 2 years. So I can come in, the espresso machine's already on. I can throw whatever bean I want. We have, we roast 10,000 pounds a week here. So there's definitely selection to have. But if I'm like strictly making it at home where I live, not at where I work, I tend to go pour over. That's my preferred method. It really depends on what I'm feeling. If I have a dark roast coffee or a light roast coffee, or processing methods will help me select that brew method. But the way I was raised in the coffee industry pushes me towards Kalita. Kalita Wave Brewer is my preference. If you want to quick bullet point, that's what I like. And I like to do light roast African coffees. If I was doing a darker roast, like a dark Sumatra or a Nicaragua is what we have here that I really enjoy. I tend to go more of a French press, something a bit heavier, or maybe even an AeroPress. I don't use AeroPress too often. I tend to really like pour overs. Pour overs is my go-to. But if you do have an espresso machine, that's my overall preference.
But no, that's awesome. But no, that's good to know too, because I know everyone's opinion changes. But I think the pour over is kind of everyone's. I would say the majority of people seem to tend to lean that way.
And if you could get a nice drip coffee machine, those do really, really well. Anything SCA or certified. So I know Bona Vita is really good. Mocha Master by Technivorm, really, really nice machines. And there's another Cuisinart. Cuisinart has a really nice machine as well.
Okay.
For people who really value convenience, maybe not going as far as say a Keurig. Keurig can be done really well, but it takes a lot of time and effort and concentration on the grind and all this stuff. But if you get yourself a nice drip pour over coffee maker and set it to automatic brew, I have been known to enjoy those coffees as well. But if I'm doing the morning ritual and really investing my time and energy into that, a good Kalita wave with a washed Ethiopian light roast. That's my recommendation.
What are your thoughts on K-cups in general? Do you think I know like the plastic behind K-cups is not sustainable at all for the environment and all that. If you would suggest to folks, like, would you steer them away from K-cups if they are using them?
There are reusable K cups out
Mhm.
there, or like you can get a reusable K cup and then put beans
Refillable.
in there. Yeah, refillable. But I mean, yeah, the plastic
Just,
single use.
Yeah, the single use, the ongoing waste in those
Mhm.
are very, very detrimental, not very sustainable at all. But then you also consider how many people have invested in a Keurig coffee maker and how much embodied energy is in that just to throw it out
Mm,
entirely. So finding those small changes that you can make to, keep the working coffee maker that still works and it makes good coffee, but finding those applications that are different. So there are compostable options out there. I think Cameron's makes compostable,
mm,
or
That sounds right.
Kirkland. Costco has a brand that has compostable that you just take the pot out, throw it directly in the compost. It's all compostable plastic, fabric netting,
Cool.
filter. So we've used those in the past, but refillable and you get more options of what you can fill them with. You could get a really nice coffee that you pay good money for. It's fair trade, organic, all that kind of stuff. And then you get a little more flexibility there. But yeah, it's hard to tell people to just toss it all out, throw it in the garbage, like get your use out of it. I know they're really poorly made. I've worked at a fix-it clinic where people will bring their Keurig coffee makers in and they're nearly impossible to fix because they're just so cheaply made.
Yeah.
So use them till they just cannot be used no more, and then find a good way to dispose of them, which there's no clear option out there as well. Mostly it's just throw it in the garbage because nobody's willing to recycle it or deconstruct it, all that kind of stuff.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so my recommendation, reusable K-cup or compostable options are your best choice until that machine breaks down, and then take your time, invest in something well-made that'll last you a good long while. Again, Technivorm, Bonavita, Keurig, all make really good. Oxo, I think just released a new either grinder or brewer, things that'll serve you well over the years.
No, that's really good to know. And I kind of just wanted to finish up here with more of a local spin. So I know we're both here in the Twin Cities. Do you have any local favorite spots that you go to right now? Coffee shops? Like, I just want some suggestions, mainly for myself.
I will share with you a map I made of every single coffee shop in the Twin Cities.
Awesome. Yes.
And I'll give you some recommendations there.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, like my favorite go-tos, I'm kind of biased from a Tiny perspective, but also some of my favorites serve things other than Tiny or Roastery 7. Karma Coffee in Northeast is a Tiny account. Really, really friendly staff, clean, good environment to read a book, meet with somebody. Those tend to be my favorite spots that I can use it multi-purpose. I can go there, study, read, work on the computer, or I can have a meeting with a friend or a colleague or a work meeting, so on and so forth. So Karma Coffee in Northeast, Groundswell in Midway, St. Paul, love them. They're a Dogwood account. They do a really good job. Canteen in South Minneapolis off of Bryant and I forget the cross street, but Canteen. They are a Kickapoo account. I really love Kickapoo coffee as well. They're based out of Viroqua, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Those are my three like go-to.
Sorry. I was just gonna say, is it Nina's or Nina's?
Nina's, yeah.
Nina's, is that Roastery 7 as
That's
well?
a Roastery 7 account.
Okay.
Love them. June is the proprietor. Great person. And Bethany is their general manager. Great training, friendly staff. Love
it's
them
a fun
as well.
shop.
It's a really nice shop. I'm really loving Yellowbird. They're becoming one of my go-tos. Very comfortable environment. It's small, and so it's intimate, but it's not like overwhelmingly loud or anything. I'm able to, read a book, to work on the computer while I'm there as well. And then there are places I go when I want a really good cup of coffee. That tends to be Angry Catfish.
Okay.
who's now serving Northern Coffee Works, Intelligentsia, and Ruby, sometimes Sweet Bloom out of Denver, Colorado. They have really good coffee alongside their sister cafe, Northern Coffee Works off of Washington, just outside of downtown Minneapolis. Really, really good spot. Penny's is always fun. That's a fun environment. I'm just listening to all of my coffee, all the coffee shops.
Is Ruby the one from Wisconsin, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, they're out of Madison, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good coffee coming out of Milwaukee now too. There's some fun shops there. Anodyne is roasting there, and Collectivo, I believe, has some shops
Collectivo.
there.
Yeah,
really good. And then I think Just might be based out of Wisconsin somewhere. So Green Bay maybe.
These are his favorite kinds of questions.
Oh,
so
you should definitely come to an MNCC meeting. Then we could just gather.
Yeah, I was gonna say we need to meet in person, I think, and just once
now that coffee
COVID's
shops are open, we'll meet at Yellowbird or something.
Yeah, for sure.
In St. Paul.
No, that sounds awesome. But yeah, I was gonna ask. I know you guys are part of the Minnesota Coffee Collective, correct?
Coffee Collective,
Is that? Could you just give me like a background on that? Because I went to their site and I was trying to how do you sign up to be part of that? Is that a thing or?
It's an open group, so we have open meetings for anybody to come to. We have a lot of coffee professionals that are a part, but also just passionate coffee people.
Okay.
Have they been doing anything?
We've been on hiatus during the pandemic, but we generally have monthly meetings. We were supposed to have, here I have a flyer here.
Yeah.
April 13th was supposed to be our last one, and that's right when the pandemic hit.
Yep.
But the topic was leadership elections, panel discussion on starting a business. So, anybody who wants to start, whatever, I'll send it to you when we meet.
Perfect. Yeah. No, that sounds awesome.
But they're open meetings for anybody interested in coffee. We've done cupping competitions where we'll all face off tasting coffees and trying to beat out everyone else.
He will send you the information on how to join.
Yeah.
Yeah, because were the events just posted on their website then, I'm assuming, usually? Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep. Instagram too is a great spot. Those are the two main places I go find information.
Awesome. No, that helps a lot, and I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat. It was really fun. I could talk to you guys for another hour or so. So I just want to give you one last pitch for Folia too. I'm going to definitely go on and buy some coffee right after this. So gotta check it out. And
don't worry about it. I'll bring a bag to you so you can just when we meet. So
yeah, definitely we should get together soon.
Cool.
Yeah, now that cafes are opening back up.
Yeah, I'm dying to go out.
I know. I went to Quixotic a few times just to get some to-go coffee, but I actually even drove over to Dogwood just to get some coffee the other day too. I was like, I can't just give my business to one place just because I live close. So, but
if you don't mind, I'd love to just hear from your lens. What do you like in a good coffee? What have you been finding in the coffees that you've been reviewing that has really stood out to you?
Yeah, I feel like I really enjoy, like Nathan said too, the light roast, and I'm kind of learning which geographical areas I'm finding that I enjoy them from as well. I did just try one from Ethiopia, and it was a light roast, and I really enjoyed that one. I think it was Boon Boona, the one from Seattle. But it's just, I think like Nathan was saying too, I've already learned from I don't know, I've only been doing this for a month or so. Just from the first one to now, I've learned what I like and don't like. I thought I was a guy that always liked a bitter type of coffee, but I don't think I am. After I tend to steer more towards the lower acidity coffees as well, which I'm still learning, and I think that's kind of what I'm leaning towards right now is those lighter roast, and still trying to figure out where exactly in the world I like them from. So, but I think what I started the faces of coffee. I kind of wanted to start it, not even for reviews. I kind of just did that on my own, but more just to chat with folks like you,
Yeah.
and even chat with like everyone from coffee shop owners to people that drink coffee to farmers themselves. I think just a place where like I can just continue to learn. I think it's fun to chat with folks like that, and everyone shares the same passion. So it's just one way to kind of give back a little bit, but not as much as you guys are going to do. So
hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah. But no, we definitely need to set up a little coffee get together
Yeah, for
here
sure.
in the near future. So
That sounds great.
So one last Folia pitch. You want to do it?
Ooh, a pitch. So
How do you sum us up?
Folia is a sustainability company that is working to reduce the waste in the production and service of coffee. We are scaling up our efforts to be able to serve coffee in the Twin Cities community, and
Keep your eye out.